from the AM/FM 24/7 radio network, broadcasting from AM and FM stations around the country. Welcome to the Small Business Administration award-winning School for Startups Radio, where we talk all things small business and entrepreneurship. Now, here is your host, the guy that believes anyone can be a successful entrepreneur, because entrepreneurship is not about creativity, risk, or passion, Jim Beach.
Welcome back to School for Startups Radio. Thank you so much for being with us today. Hope you're using today to make yourself a better entrepreneur, to gain some best practices and skills to make that happen, and also to keep yourself motivated and moving forward when even at difficult times, when being an entrepreneur could be so hard. I am very excited to introduce you to our next guest. His name is Paul Kreiter, and he is an expert on the speaking industry. He is the senior vice president of a company called American Program Bureau, and they help speakers get gigs. They help corporations find speakers for events. They do all of this sort of stuff. And I know that so many of you, the listeners, and us entrepreneurs are interested in a speaking career. And also I wanted to learn about the business side of this, so I thought Paul would be the perfect guest. Paul, welcome to the show. Thank you for being with us. How you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Well, I'm excited to learn about everything. Did you grow up wanting to be in this industry? How did you fall into this industry, in the speaker industry? How'd that happen, Paul?
Well, a combination of things. I kind of fell into it, but it started with a foundation when I was younger, always being involved with the performing arts. I did a lot of theater and acting, for community plays, but also some semi-professional work. And I really enjoyed it. Being in front of people and presenting and directing and being creative was a big part of my upbringing. When I found this work at American Program Bureau, I kind of came at it from an interesting angle. I studied performing arts in college, but then changed to education and actually became a teacher. And I started teaching and found that I enjoyed the performing aspect of being in front of the audience, a.k.a. the students, with my script, a.k.a. the curriculum, and to help them learn and grow and achieve. And then I wanted to get more involved with event planning and helping not just speak to audiences, but create the events for audiences. So I looked for other opportunities to use my teaching background and my performing arts bug, and American Program Bureau was looking for someone with my background, and that was about 5.5 years ago.
Well, it sounds like a great fit. Congratulations on finding a perfect place for you. Tell us now a little bit about American Program Bureau. For those people who've never heard of that company, give us the lowdown.
Sure. So American Program Bureau is a keynote speakers agency. We're about 55 years old, and the founder of the organization is a man named Robert Walker, who actually created this talent focus. He created the keynote speaking industry back when he started this. There wasn't an avenue for politicians, actors, athletes to be represented by talent management for this kind of work. Sure, there was TV, there was commercials, there was movies, but there wasn't live audiences presentations. So he created the niche for this. And there are competing bureaus out there that do similar work, but we are the originators, if you will.
And what kind of people do you represent? You mentioned already some of them, politicians, celebrities, movie stars, sports figures. Sure. Who are some of those people? Can you tell us some, or do you have to kill us?
I don't have to kill you. So some of the folks that we represent are high-profile individuals like President Mikhail Gorbachev, Archbishop Desmond Tutu, actress Goldie Hawn, Jamie Lee Curtis, actor Michael Douglas, and there are many other very well-known pop culture, but also world leader icons that we work with.
And what about any non-famous people, or do you only represent the superstars of the world? I mean, would you represent a lowly first-term congressman from Iowa?
We would. Our agency is not just focused on the most famous or the most well-known. It's actually one of the reasons why American Program Bureau hired me, because of my background in education and also my background in social services. We have departments for every genre and every market, from global leadership to entertainment to higher education, and also not-for-profit healthcare, mental health care, and community organizations. So for the not-for-profit groups, for the most part, these groups don't have the large budgets to bring in famous movie stars. But they do raise the money they need in order to bring in someone who's going to be very impactful and speak to their organization about very important issues. So that's where the less well-known, quote-unquote, folks are booked pretty frequently.
All right, so how often, and I know that this is the outlier of all outliers, but how much truth to the industry is what we're hearing from the Hillary Clinton $200,000 a speech, with all of these overriders and particular caveats in the deals and stuff? Are most deals sort of like that, just scaled back in the numbers, or is that really just a crazy outlier?
It's hard for me to talk about that because Hillary Clinton is represented by another agency, so I can't speak in specifics to her speaking fees and the technical riders that go into having her at an event. But I can tell you that there are some very expensive six-figure speakers out there that have very specific details when it comes to coming to your city and presenting in front of a large audience. But then we have some speakers that are at the minimum, a few $1,000s that will come and pretty much do anything you want them to do because they're there under a different context. So it ranges considerably to the really affordable to the very expensive.
Paul, every once in a while in my city, I see these huge billboards with like a one-day event downtown at the arena, and Rudy Giuliani is there, and Colin Powell, and Donald Trump, and one of the first ladies. You know this big event? Have you seen this huge billboard?
Absolutely.
What's the deal with that? And they basically give away tickets. How does that whole scam work? Is that a scam, or what's going on there? Can you explain that one to me? I've never been able to figure it out.
Right. Well, as far as I know, it's not a scam. The billboards go up by the organizations that are bringing in those speakers. So if it's a nationally known association that's trying to raise awareness for human rights issues, or to end childhood cancer, or to raise money for education, the organization that is putting it on in the city will contact a bureau like ours to line up the talent, the speakers, for these events. And when it's a huge draw with a huge name or a few huge names, the organization will invest lots of money into some great advertising for the event, like billboards or pictures on the sides of bus benches or buses, or newspaper ads, internet ads, that sort of thing. Anything to drive people to that event, to bring awareness to the cause, but also to the organization that's putting on the event.
Yeah, but I'm referring to an event where they have like 12 of these super brand name speakers all at once, and the tickets are free. Is that not a particular company or somebody that does that? Am I just wrong on this?
From my knowledge, it's not a particular organization that would do that. It's an organization that has the financial support to make such a large event happen. These big, famous speakers will be on one stage together in sort of a panel discussion, and each of them will have the spotlight for a set amount of time. And they make it free because it's the message that's important, and for people to hear that message. That's why they would advertise it as such. These groups have incredible financial supporters to make this kind of event happen.
All right. I guess that makes sense. I just never could figure out how they could make all of this happen for free, because those people are charging, I don't know, what's Colin Powell get, or somebody of his caliber, $50,000, $30,000 to show up for something like that?
It can get very expensive for big names, but sometimes speakers will reduce their fees because the venue, the audience, and the message is too important. So sometimes that's how it's possible to do that. Otherwise, these are people like I'm saying, who have some incredible sponsors and partners to make these kinds of things happen.
I heard one time that there are 15,000 speaking gigs, I think, a week in the United States, something like that, a huge number,
Sure.
Right? Are there people out there that we've never heard of who are making $1 million a year that are not the Zig Ziglars of the world, right? But are still
Right.
just out there knocking it out of the ballpark as a professional speaker?
Yeah, we represent many of them. People who started off with very adverse childhood experiences, maybe overcoming abuse or witnessing domestic violence or being born in extreme poverty, who now are owners or co-founders of incredible not-for-profits doing great work out there. There are, I believe that number, 15,000 events going on every week. There are so many pockets of communities out there that have such important causes that don't end just because the season doesn't call for it, right? Poverty, homelessness, raising awareness about education and children, these things are always important. So you bet there's always an event and there's always a dynamic speaker for it.
What about the season of these events? Now that we're in the holiday season, are there more or less events? Is there like a event season? I used to go to all of the trade shows in Vegas.
Sure.
And I certainly knew that there was a trade show season in Vegas, January through May, something like that. Is that also true in your industry?
Yeah, there are several seasons, several cycles where bookings happen, and it really depends on the market. Here's a great example. For example, if it's a public school that wants to bring in a speaker to speak to high school kids about bullying or peer pressure or raising awareness about violence in dating relationships, they're going to host a program anytime between September and April, because that's when the school year is going on. When late spring and summer arrive, schools and related industries won't necessarily bring in speakers because no one's there, right? Whether it's higher education or if it's public education, they're away for the summer. They're just not there. So it's not financially viable to spend the money on event planning, including bringing in a speaker, when no one's going to be on campus or on the school grounds. And in other industries, there are, like you had mentioned, trade shows. They happen in a certain amount of time. And it really depends. For the organizations that are trying to solve complex social issues, there isn't a cycle. It's always important. But when it comes to school systems or businesses, there might be a very specific cycle for booking.
All right. What's the coolest event that you can think of off the top of your head? And the reason I thought of this question was my wife works at a foundation, and their job is to raise money for a children's hospital network, right?
Sure.
So she's trying to raise money and does tons and tons of events. She's always promoting events, and they're tied in with the local football team and stuff like that. The latest event that she was part of involved the implosion of a 20-story skyscraper at 7:00 in the morning with their logo on the side of it. And I was like, that's a pretty good one. I was like, oh, that's pretty fun. We had fun with that. We all got up at 6 in the morning and went out and had donuts and coffee and watched them blow up this building. What's one of your favorite memories?
Well, I'll tell you about an event I recently attended. This was in Toronto, and it was about a couple weeks ago, where an organization called the Jewish National Fund of Toronto was hosting a fundraising event to raise awareness about PTSD and other mental health-related issues, and raising awareness and raising funds to build a facility to help these people. They brought in entertainer, actor, and author Martin Short, who appeared on Saturday Night Live and Second City.
Yeah, big fan of
for the
his.
and the first time in a decade plus, he performed with Second City, who have a Toronto-based troupe. They're Chicago and Toronto. And I helped put that program together, bringing Second City and Martin Short together to do comedy and skits and songs and musicals, and it raised incredible money for this organization and for people who are really at risk and in need. So it was really exciting to be there for that fun event.
They should turn that into a TV show, a special.
Yeah. Martin Short is an incredible performer, and Second City, they're experts in improv. So the combination of the two of them was dynamic, for sure.
Right. I just actually read Tina Fey's book, Smarty Pants, when she was talking about being at Second City. And that was a really fun book. I really enjoyed reading that and learning about that, not being from Chicago and having experienced it. Do you, when you need a speaker or you want to represent a client, do you go and ask them? Do you go and find all of your clients, or do you have people coming into you unsolicited and trying to get you to hire them as a potential speaker? Which way does it go?
So it goes both ways. So in our industry, the word client usually refers to the organization that is hiring the speaker, right? So it might be that trade, the Expo Center of Montreal, or it might be the Mental Health Counseling Center of Metropolitan Chicago. Those are clients looking to hire a speaker, right? When we recruit a speaker, we refer to them as talent. These are talent. We add the talent to our roster. Sometimes, if a talent out there, whether it's a politician, actor, athlete, whatever, is making a big splash in the news for some major story, event, or innovation, we reach out to them directly, either through their talent companies, or through them, or through their Twitter accounts. Sometimes Facebook. But being in the industry and have been in the industry for 50-some years, we have a lot of connections. So it's very easy for us to reach out to the folks that are making news. Sometimes it works the other way, where since we're an established industry and organization, talent will come find us and ask to be represented. Sometimes we take them on because they have the criterion that meets what we do. Sometimes we can't represent the people who seek us for representation.
All right. Do you ever have, and I don't mean this in the derogatory way, like crazy talent, as in, they only want green M&Ms and nothing else. But do you ever represent like sword swallowers or those crazy type professions, the Vegas acts, or do you only represent the highbrow?
We represent a wide range of people. So yes, we do represent the more eclectic acts you might be talking about, like
right. Yep.
maybe musicians or comedians or magicians or these kinds of performers. But primarily what we do is work with people who deliver keynote presentations, right? The 20 to 60 minutes of content where they're delivering a message in a passionate way. So that's what we do first. But the reason why we take on talent versus we don't take on talent, there are some very specific criteria that we need these people to have. Specifically, we're not just going to hire any sword swallower, if you will. It has to be a sword swallower who is nationally known, a best-selling author or nationally syndicated somebody who is overwhelmed with invitations for speaking. And that's the difference between an amateur, right? Someone who is just starting or doesn't get a lot of requests but wants to start their career. There's the difference.
All right. Well, that makes a lot of sense. I like it. Well, I greatly appreciate you being with us today, Paul. You've provided some really interesting information and insights into this industry. How can people find out more about you or the company, get in touch with you on Twitter, all of that kind of stuff, please?
Sure. So, again, my company is called American Program Bureau. Our website is www.apbspeakers.com. That's A for Apple, P for Paul, B for Boy, speakers, plural.com. You can find me on Twitter at pkreiter, Kreiter, .apb. I constantly tweet and promote the work of the industry and of our talent. And Facebook, if you Google us, you'll find us. We're everywhere. That's the advantage of being around for so long, you know?
Yes, it is. Well, Paul, thank you so much for being with us today. Have greatly enjoyed getting to know you and learning about what you do. Thank you so much, and I hope you have a fantastic holiday season.
All right, to you too. Thanks for having me.
All right.